Well, hello, my fellow car modelers. How you doing today? We're going to do another episode taking a look at an old classic Scale Auto from back in the day. And this is we're still pulling them out from the 80s, the late 80s, about the time that I discovered the magazine and really got head into this hobby. And I like to kind of go over these to kind of show you the things that inspired me. And this is going to be really cool. There's one thing in particular in this magazine that caught my eye back then and really was an inspiration, which brings us to something that recently happened on Facebook. So this hobby is so cool. Let's take a look. What do you say? All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's just take a look at the whole book here. We're going to go through it, but there's something that I'm going to spend a little time with. So I'm going to go fast through a lot of things. We're going to keep this one a little minimal on the stories. I know. But I want you to get a grasp of this particular issue. But there's one thing in this issue I really want to cover. I think it's really cool. And like I said, it's connected to something that just happened on one of the Facebook modeling groups. So here we are. We've got Scale Auto Enthusiast. It's number 57, October of 1988. A lot of you kiddies weren't even born yet, or you're little, tiny little fellas. But me, I was a grown man of, 22 years old. And I was just getting way into the hobby at this point. I was just really involved. I think this is at this point in time I had kind of found, other builders and started realizing that this was an adult sport, and I wasn't some kid hiding, an adult hiding with his kid toys in the closet anymore. As usual, Gary Schmidt era Scale Auto Enthusiast, really cool layout on the cover. And that caught my eye because I was into NASCAR and kind of really starting to follow it. And I always liked the Levi Garrett car, so I was interested. And neat article on graphics here for doing that. So we just go in here, and they're still going nuts at the time of that 66 Nova, still doing articles. Almost through the whole year of 1988, it seemed like they were just constantly doing articles on this model. We did in a past episode show you the debut of it in Scale Auto and how everybody went nuts. Because again, this was quite the pivotal car. We've talked about it. Some of you guys, it's a model kit we still get today, and you don't realize how important, what a turning point of the hobby that kit was. And Scale Auto just couldn't let it go. And by all rights, of course they couldn't. It was the first model the model companies listened to the adult builders and what they wanted, and they delivered in that kit. So we're moving on again. MSC models. I don't think I need to go through that again, but the incredible Don Farney and his great pro stocks that were just always so neat and so realistic. He was just ahead of our time. The stuff he did, he really pushed the realism, and MSC model products helped them out with that. Boy, I wish they were still around. Their stuff was good. But like I've said, and I'm going to throw another plug just because I like this company so much, is ProTech. Since we don't have MSC, ProTech picked up that torch, in my opinion. I know there's other detail companies, and they're probably going to get mad at me, but I got to say the truth. ProTech is like it was almost like the exact same thing as MSC, where everybody else was not quite there, but ProTech nailed it. They've been around a long time. They got a lot of other cool things and photo etch stuff. So check ProTech out since we don't have MSC. Anyway, so we're moving along. And of course, in Scale Auto. Oh, wow. This is another thing that makes this magazine so important. That model show. And I'm going to do a whole video on that model show. My very first model show that I went and competed. I don't want to say against. I just, wanted to take a shot at competing, but it was my very first model show. That's where I met Jim Bunch, and that's where I met a lot of the other great Southern California modelers that were always in this magazine. It was the inaugural Southern California Model-rama. Oh, man, does that mean a ton to me. That was it. I saw this ad. I put in time to get away from work, and I went there. And that changed my life going to that show. And that is what this Scale Auto magazine means to me. Scale Auto, it was just such an important thing. And it, you know, I had never known. We didn't have internet back then. This was the internet. And holy cow, old Ron Bolton's show, which they did it for quite a few years, and it was always a great show. Man, what an opportunity I got when I went to that. But we're going to cover that in another video. And look at, there's all this cool stuff. LMG Enterprises, showed them before, on the shelf. Here's the kits that came out back then that they were covering. This was a review on the Fujimi 356. That'd be cool to have that kit today. You could do an Outlaw. If any of you guys look up Outlaws, that became a huge thing these past few years with restoring and modifying these, resto modding these. Hey, remember when the Revell 69 Shelby came out? Oh yeah, there was that if anything screams 80s, look at that. Monogram brought it to you too. That frickin' car, the Lamborghini Countach. Look at this. Gosh, I remember when these kits came out. Remember Skip's Drive-In? They did this Skip's Drive-In series. I think, yeah, it was Skip's Fiesta. Old Revell kits have been put out and put out and put out. The 68 Corvette. Ooh, that Corvair kit. I don't have this version, but I got this Corvette kit. Is so cool. I'm actually getting ready to do a project with that. I always liked that Corvair. Revell came out with the great Glidden, the Glidden car. That was such a nice kit. It was like, it wasn't really correct. They didn't update the chassis at all to what Pro Stock was running in 88. But the 88 Glidden Motorcraft car, it was cool. It was a new body, but they had the best wheels. I bought so many of these kits just for the frickin' wheels. Those Krager Drag Stars. What a cool kit that was. And there's another one of those Prestige kits. And there was more. I got that Hasegawa Silk Cut Jag when that came out. That's a good kit. And it's still in the collection, collecting dust, not getting built. I'd like to one day. Look at all these ads. I mean, but it's ads in not a bad way. Oh, and then there's an ad for the 10th Greater Salt Lake show, which was the show. And I never got to go to it. And they're going to be doing the last one in 2022. And I am going to make sure I'm at that, because I've just never made it to that. And that was the granddaddy. Everyone who was anyone building model cars back in the day would show up to that. And even that goes for today. They'll show up when it happens. Enthusiast Gallery. Remember I told you about that? Scale Auto had this cool Enthusiast Gallery. People just send in pictures of their models. And there was a pretty cool diorama of a garage, old-time garage. We've done this, talked about this before, how they covered everything in Scale Auto. I mean, that's what it was, Scale Auto Enthusiast. So they touched everything. Didn't care how popular or unpopular it was. You know, they wanted to make sure they put something out for everyone. And I would always go just past this because I had no interest in 43rd or, you know, small scale model cars. Just didn't really matter to me. But I appreciate that they did it. But I did kind of start getting into these starters, and this is where I heard of starter kits, and I did get a few of those. That'd be cool to do a starter kit. Yeah, one of these old starter 80s stock cars. We should do one of those, cover it. I'll cover that in a Lucas kit, so I got one. It'll be cool. I'll show you one of these starters. Here we go. This gave you an outline of how to do your own graphics, doing the Levi Garrett. So at the time, no one was doing decals of it. I think Fred Cady was doing decals of it. But this was to show you how to do the Levi Garrett car. And it was kind of interesting. Anyways, it was pretty cool. I remember looking at this and going, hey, it's cool. He did the Aero Coupe and the notchback. That was pretty cool and appropriate. Right next there, J&J decals. Pictures were a lot better than, remember that last ad? You could barely tell the cars. And somewhere, here it is. There's those resin kits, which is the Pontiac 2+2. We don't have to deal with that anymore. But there's these Buick LeSabres to turn the Oldsmobile into a Buick LeSabre. You had 86 and 87. And I have an 87 kit that one day I want to do something with. And look, it goes over the whole thing of how to make these graphics. And it was all done with cutting them out yourself and drawing them yourself. And it was pretty extreme, but you know, they really laid it out of how to be, you know, resourceful for yourself. If there's nobody making the decals or something, you got to do it yourself. And that was cool. Moving right along, we had this cool little Woody's hot rod build. They'd go over what kit used, how they did it. everything. And they just did in such detail in the magazine back then. And look at how much time and space they dedicated to each article that was, builds. And I guarantee you, there is still a model show coverage in this magazine. And we haven't even gotten to the main feature of what I want to show you. We've kind of covered what they had on this article, and that stock car article was on the cover, but there's something very cool in here we're getting to. This is the main part of this video of why I wanted to show this magazine. And here we go. How many of you remember this? Jim Keeler's Dodge Fevers. Very cool. The funny thing is, I reread the article really quick, before I got on here, so I can kind of not stumble and kind of tell a little story, cliff notes, instead of reading the whole thing to you. But if you ever can find this magazine, this right here alone is worth getting the magazine. These are very, very important models. These were so scratch built, and they were done at this time. Remember, this is 1988. It reads 20 years ago. That would have been 1968. I wish 1968 was only 20 years ago. Woo! At that time, these models were 20 years old. This was a major thing. There was a mail-in photo contest, a big photo contest back in the day, and Jim wanted to get involved in it, and it was it was an old model magazine, just Model Car Magazine or something it was called, Model Car Journal, I can't remember, but it was a 60s Model Car magazine. They had a Build-A-Funny car, but it specifically had to be a Dodge Coronet. But he didn't read it that close, so he started doing a Dodge Charger. And then, had to scrap that, so he did Dodge Fever. So he built these things for one contest, but this didn't work out, so he did it again with a Coronet. And, wow, these things are cool. And then 20 years later, Greg Struhaw recreated it. This is Greg's version of it. And it was really cool to see, a 20-year span of the model. So that's what's really cool about this. Now, this is the thing, what made me want to pull this magazine out and show it. Jim Keeler, who later on, he actually was very involved. Look up Jim. He's out there, and you find out who he is. He was very much involved with the model magazines later on, and with, I believe, Revell. If I'm saying anything wrong, sorry, Jim. I hope you're watching this. So if I'm incorrect, please straighten me out. I'm just trying to do the cliff notes here, but the information's out there. Look it up. I really say look it up. These things were really incredible for at the time. The engineering in them, the imagination, because this was major kit bashing. Nobody did this back in the 60s. In the 80s, they were completely up to date, and that's what Greg wanted to show, because he recreated the Dodge Fever. The very first one, Dodge, which was the one that didn't get to the show because it was the wrong car, and he had to do Dodge Fever 2, which was the correct Coronet. This is a really interesting story. Maybe I'll figure out a way to get this story out to you guys who can't get this magazine. But if you want to know more about the Dodge Fevers and Jim Keeler, well, if you're not a part, and I'm gonna plug here the Quarter Mile Modelers Facebook group. If you're into drag race models and you're not on that, go over there and join. It's a great modeling community online, a cool Facebook group on, just drag race model cars. Well, it just so happens that one of the moderators or member of that group noticed that Jim Keeler joined up on that group, and some pictures were posted of this car getting restored by him. He was saying, welcoming Jim to the group, and Jim replied to everybody, and it's really cool that he's still out there active and heavy into the hobby enough to take notice of these modeling groups and get involved. That is our history, our model car history. And for you guys who came in later who might have not known about this, how long this hobby's been going on and how adult this hobby has been with major scratch building, Jim was one of the first. He was one of the guys that really took it to another level. And that's what was cool about this article, which was showing the history of our hobby. And now here we are. I don't want to think about it. How many years ago was 1988 from right now? We're talking 33 years or something. So this article and this model right here that was a recreation is older than those were to this model when this article came out. You get what I'm saying? So we got even a longer time span. And how cool is it that the original guy is restoring the original model right now, and you can see it over on the Quarter Mile Modelers. I suggest you get over on that group and join up. It is a great group, and check out what Jim's doing with that car. It's really cool. Let's move along. There's some more pictures of it. Look at that. It was just so cool. Look at, there is the original drawing he did of it. But they were just such... Look at that. They were just over the top. If you could see, I don't know if you can see this real well. Let's see if I do a zoom up. Look at the bead roll cross, X's for strengthening that make it look like 10. Jim, man, you post some stuff on this online, and we want to see it. We do. I'm speaking for everyone. We want to see that car. It is just so amazing. Hey, here we are. That 66 Nova. They got to show more and more of it. But that's cool. I think this is the article about it that kind of goes through the whole story of how this kit got made. And what a fascinating kit. Everybody their mind was blown about that. Just having that little extra stand. And I got a bunch of these stands and engines. They get used. They're great for dioramas. You know, they keep putting this kit out and putting it in two versions. They do the Pro Street version and this version. I've got a ton of them. I know a lot of you guys got a ton of them. You can still buy it today. It is just still a great kit. You know, it totally fits into today's standards, and this was late 80s when they did it. Is this a contrast or some kind of show coverage? But this is like really high-end models. But this is kind of pre-war, and that Ferrari's very cool. And then, this was cool. Tim Boyd would always do really cool articles. Does a really cool story on all that stuff. The Dodge Demon. That's when I discovered that they did a Dodge Demon. They still, to this day, there's a way to put that kit out. That is something that needs to be put back out. Even though they messed with the molds, and the molds it would have to be retooled. But boy, a Dodge Demon would be cool. And holy Toledo, look at that. The Toledo show, which the Toledo Classic was one of the big ones. One of those big ones. Oh, I got to say something. Model Empire, they always had a big ad. Mail order. But do you remember these? Man, I wish you could get these. I love these. These were the best BF Goodrich tires. These were such cool tire sets. The wheels were okay. I didn't care about the tires. Were amazing. I have like one set, and I hold on to them. I would do anything to get some more of those. That was Ari tires. And you remember that. For some reason, I always thought it was Oshima that did them, but no, it was a company called Ari. I know they were a Japanese company, but if those could ever be put back out, it would be wonderful. Anyways, back to the Holy Toledo. Holy Toledo. What some cool... Now, check this out. Right here, Randy Deere. Randy Deere, gonna have to do something on him. That guy was one of those modelers. And Randy's still plugging away, I believe. That was a guy who did a lot of race car models and did so much scratch building. And he would do stuff that, there was not a kit of. And... there was no kit of this at the time. He did Richard Petty's new stock car. And it was the 88 Pontiac. And at the time, there wasn't the kit out yet. So he went ahead and scratch built. And they later on did a whole article on how he scratch built this whole thing. That's a little picture. It doesn't do it justice. But that whole body, he made it. And what a great show. Look at all these cool models. This is 1988. And look at how cool those models are. There's all kinds of stuff. Oh, look at the dioramas, really cool. Dan Wright's of sprint cars, doing what sprint cars do. And hey, check this out. Andy Callan, he was a model builder, eventually moved down here to Phoenix, so I got to know him a little bit. But he always was quite the contributor in the early days of doing stuff. And I was talking about doing that vinyl top on that Camaro with masking tape. This is where I got it from. Andy Callan's got to get the props on that. I didn't come up with that idea. I read this article, and that's why I did it. And this is it right here. And it really shows exactly how to do it, which, it's pretty easy. Maybe one day I'll do a video on actually doing it. Another reason, if you can hunt this down, this is a great article to read and gives you everything right here of how to do it. This was a very, very easy to understand technical article. Man, Scale Auto Enthusiast, Gary Schmidt, was awesome. Yeah, upgrade your engine with a metal flex fan. And how many of those did you buy from Detail Master? I love photo etched flex fans. And this was where I discovered them and had to go get one when I got a hold of one. I used this article to put mine together. And just some sketch pad. They had just come out with a long bed 88 Chevy. It was MPC that put it out. Already they're talking about we need a short box, so that's how you do it. And also customizing it. But here's a bunch of different ideas. That was always cool, doing these sketch pads. And we got our, model truck line and model firehouse. Sorry, I don't fly. I fly this on, quite honestly. Check this out. See, you see it in the craziest spots. That's why you can't blow it off like I was just about to. A little thing on resin casting in model firehouse. That's why you had to look at everything. There was always some kind of how-to. How much information in this one magazine? How much information have we already seen just to benefit our hobby and our model building? How cool is it? And then you got, and still have a million ads and still put this thing chock full. But the ads were very useful. You can't get angry about ads when you have all this information too. You definitely got your bang for the buck. Oh, this was very cool. This was a very cool story. It was written by Phil Hall and John Casjane, Hell's Corners Speedway owner. So this guy owned a speedway. I haven't read this, so I'm going to do it out of memory because I found this fascinating. This was like almost a completely scratch-built truck, but it is a model of the actual water truck they had at the racetrack. He wasn't even a model builder. He just took a crack at it. And look at all that detail and all that weathering, rusty. You can hear the thing rusting still. But yeah, it was just built a model of his wreckage of a water truck for the racetrack. Man, oh man, that's pretty much it. We've gone over all this stuff before. No need to pounce on that, but there it is, guys and gals. Boy, model car building was fun then, but it's really fun today. We've got some really cool technology today that enhances our hobby. I really think the hobby is better today than it ever has been, but it's so cool looking at the past and my memories because I was there back then. This was all my influential stuff here. But to know that guys like Jim Keeler are still out there kicking and punching away at these great models, and it's neat to see that he's restoring that. I want to keep an eye on that. I'd love to see that when he gets it all finished. So get over there and check out Quarter Mile Modelers on Facebook. Join up. I'm sure you'll be okay to get on there. Tell them Luca sent you, and go check out. There's a lot of great modelers on that one. If you like drag racing, holy cow, there's stuff that'll knock your eyeballs out of your skull. So keep gluing those fingers together, my friends, and keep cutting that styrene, and we will see you in the next video. My producers. How you doing today? So let's take a look. I'm gonna start it over again. This is it. Ready? A 1E. And a 2E. And a thrace. Revell came out with the great Glidden, the Glidden car. Yeah, that thing. Ronald I'm trying to not destroy names. Ronald Spanraft. Don't know who he is. Never heard of him. Any of you guys? Are you out there, Ronald? Say hi.